And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here. Tell you what, thank you so much for being part of all of our great shows, which includes the Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And if you can, check out all the back episodes that we've done in the past couple weeks of the Lakers Fast Break. Some great and entertaining conversation there with a lot of great guests. Also, as well, if you get a chance on our Pop Culture Cosmos Facebook area, you can check out our videos that we've done each and every week devoted to our ongoing D&D game, The Lost Mine of Foundiverse. So if you get a chance, check that out. It's very interesting viewing. We're on 24 hours so far of coverage, 6 different parts. It's almost like the Justice League there. So if you get a chance, check it out. Hopefully you get a chance to if you're really into Dungeons and Dragons. This truly cannot thank you enough. Plus we've got more great stuff coming on the way. Some special things in mind here coming up right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Well, Josh is still doing things behind the scenes for the Pop Culture Cosmos. So, taking his place once again, and might I say it might be an improvement? You never know. Oh, little smackage to Josh there. He's once again back right with us. He is the man, the myth, the legend from the Hunnick Outcast. You got to catch what he's doing today at the Hunnick Outcast on Facebook. All the great stuff that he has planned, and so much more. It is Noah Ian Fein. And Noah, thanks for returning back on the show. Josh is not lost. He just has not been found yet.
Well, I've heard under mysterious circumstances, and he's not here, and I am, so. But in the meantime, yeah, we were talking about some things off the air, and he asked me to come back, which is actually an interesting topic that I know a few years ago I invited you when I had my podcast when I decided to discuss Justice League.
Well, hold on here. Hold on
Yeah.
here. We'll get to that in a sec because Henry Cavill, with all the talk and what's going on with a Snyder cut for
Uh,
Justice League, which is going to come to HBO Max in 2021, we will be talking about Henry Cavill's re-involvement with the DC
uh,
universe coming up here in a sec. Plus, Noah Ian Fine and I will also be talking about what plans PlayStation might or what we hope PlayStation might talk about coming up here next week because they have a special announcement, a special, I guess, virtual conference, so to speak. Is it something that was going to replace what they had planned at E3? We'll know June 4th when PlayStation talks a lot about the PlayStation 5 coming up here later in the program. Plus, Ben Arnault from the Smoking Hot Confessions is back. He's going to weigh in on the Snyder Cut, his hopes for it, his thoughts on it, plus some great ideas for cooking during the middle of the pandemic. He's going to be talking about a seafood boil and some beef and bacon stew, which, oh, if you see it on the internet, I'll tell you what, actually, I will drop it as the JPEG for this week's show. So you're going to love to see what he's got cooking up this week on the Pop Culture Cosmos. And then on the back end, we're going to briefly run down number 70 to 79 on our top 100 Pop Culture Cosmos films. But first, my friend, it is Henry Cavill. He popped in on that Zack Snyder viewing of Man of Steel that he did a couple weeks back, and of course that was that led to the announcement. That led to the announcement of the Snyder Cut for HBO Max coming in 2021. But it looks like the love fest between DC and Warner Brothers and Henry Cavill is going a little bit further once again because after rumors he was on the outs, he may be back in with DC as far as, at least at the very least, if not a Man of Steel 2, appearances in several other DC films.
Yeah, I'm a little confused about it. First of all, did anybody really want to see a sequel to Man of Steel? Yeah, I know there was an Easter egg with LexCorp. Yeah, I know with Batman v Superman, we had Jesse Eisenberg as Lex, and at the end of Justice League, we had Lex claiming he was going to create, the Legion of Doom or whatever. But in the grand scheme of things, I didn't know who Harry Cavill was before Cavill before Man of Steel, and after people were saying should Ben Affleck come back? Because now they figured if Cavill comes back, Affleck should come back. Here's my 2 cents. I reviewed Batman v Superman. We reviewed Justice League. My argument is it's a very tense situation because I don't think he was really happy with the direction that it was going in. And I just even if he did show up in the end of Shazam, where Shazam claims he knows Superman, we just saw the body double, we didn't see Cavell's head. I don't know what is he just going to have cameos? Is he going to do like what they did with the MCU? I'm not quite sure what they could. Superman to me, unfortunately, he's got the powers of a god or a demigod, but he's never as interesting unless he's with the Justice League. And I just is his rogue gallery, other than Darkseid, and the Justice League can go after Darkseid whenever they want to, but I just never really found Superman to be too appealing. I never found the stories to be that appealing. So for me, if there are Superman fans out there, I've watched the original Superman movies, I've seen the current Superman movies. I just think it would be too gritty and too serious, and that's not the Superman I grew up watching. Cavill is just playing it way too seriously. Unless you put him with Shazam, and I don't know if that'll be good cop, bad cop, like they did with Batman v Superman. I don't know what they could really do anymore with this character because Cavill played him way too stoic and not breaking a smile and not being, the original Boy Scout. Just, I'm no, bottom line is this: you can call him Man of Steel. I call him just Wood. I didn't care for the acting. I didn't care for the presence. I didn't care for the feel. He just couldn't crack a joke when he tried to. In Man of Steel, like where I want to hang my cape. And Batman v Superman, I think he was a better Clark Kent than he was Soups. And when it came to Justice League, unfortunately, he was conflicted because it went back to he's got all these powers. Could he destroy the planet or conquer the planet if he wanted to? And that's been discussed before in other comics and better. But the bottom line is no, I'm not really stoked if he comes back or not. I think they should just go in another direction, just end it already.
Well, with his character, we've talked about a lot about the Snyder Cut and all that. I think there still is room for Henry Cavill in the world of DC. I think you could do the same thing. The parallels between him and what Chris Hemsworth did with Thor. There's been talked about how his character was just as wooden. His character was just as much cardboardish in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but you saw what Taika Waititi did to spice up his character and it fully fleshed it out to where people now want to see Thor: Love and Thunder and see Thor in appearances once again in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And to see his efforts in there as far as Henry Cavill within the DC universe, there's also been talk about not there's been talk of course, a Man of Steel too, but also interjecting into Shazam, which could help him as well, as far as a little bit lighter tone, a little bit lighter feel, and him playing, like you said, a good cop, bad cop, but also being in the Black Adam movie with Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Those two are good friends, or those two are friends, and they've talked about appearing in a movie together before. And this seems like it's a good opportunity for them to go ahead and spice up not only his character, Henry Cavill's in Superman, but also get some even more notoriety to the Black Adam concept in the Black Adam film, which I think would probably only help it achieve that type of real big status that Shazam has not attained as of yet. Because it's Black Adam is evolving from the Shazam formula, but Black Adam, obviously, with Dwayne The Rock Johnson, could be a movie that exceeds anything that Shazam 1 or even Shazam 2 could ever do.
I would agree to disagree with Thor because I did enjoy that first Thor movie. I enjoyed him in Avengers. The only one I really didn't care for was Dark World, and nobody really cared for that one. But past all of it, and DC has their Thor, I suppose, with Aquaman, and I don't know if since that movie made $1 billion, why we don't have the Aquaman sequel at this point. Apparently, we'll get Wonder Woman, and that made money. We're supposed to get Wonder Woman 1984, but again, I really, you know what? I think the universe is imploding, and I think when we had superhero fatigue, it's gonna come back in a way that nobody's really gonna care about at this point because you bring them all in, unless they fight Darkseid the way that MCU fought Thanos. I don't really see what else they could do with this character or universe anymore, and it just came to a point again, which I said with the MCU, there were just too many movies and too many characters. Yeah, it did build up to something that was worth it, and it did pay off. But I don't think Warner Brothers really. They're still trying to compete in a way that they still don't know how to build the universe, and I don't think they know how to construct it. They just want to throw a bunch of characters in and go bam and say, okay, we brought Superman back because the MCU is doing whatever with their phases, and they're never going to do a phase, you know, 12 or 24 again like they did with phases 1, 2, and 3. But you know what? I'm tired with the phases and the superhero. You know what? Every now and then I'll just go back and I'm more concerned about the story and the character development and the chemistry, and I don't really see chemistry with these actors. Yeah, if The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and Henry Cavill are friends because of either Mission Impossible or Fast and Furious, that's great. Doesn't mean that they're meant to play these characters on the screen. Yeah, The Rock could be Black Adam, but when was the last time anybody really said, let's go read a Black Adam or even the Shazam comic book? After the Shazam movie, I picked up a couple of Shazam comics and I was like, well, so no, I just, you know what? It's time to move on.
Well, the one thing that you talked about superhero fatigue, I think that this period of not inactivity as far as big movies being not being released because of coronavirus and things of that nature has helped alleviate a little bit of that fatigue people had in Star Wars and superhero stuff and all that because of the fact that there's nothing out there as far as content. So we'll see when it comes to Black Widow, Wonder Woman 1984, and what's coming on down the line from both Marvel and DC if there is going to be that superhero fatigue. I think this rest period has been something as far as from a viewing standpoint for that, something that could be beneficial for them to reignite people's fascination because they're looking for an escape of all the stuff that's going on right now in the world. And that could be something that a lot of people could be looking forward to once again when DC and Marvel are able to go ahead and show their wares. But we'll wait and see what has in store for us now with HBO Max that's out and Warner Brothers planning out a long-term DC either movie by movie or either maybe something overarching again. We're not quite sure what they have in mind. They had it abandoned after the failure of Justice League, but with Justice League Snyder Cut, could that reignite anything that goes on within the DC universe? Again, we'll have to wait and see. But Henry Cavill looks like he's going to be back once again within the realm of the DC universe, and I for one am going to give him a chance. We'll just have to go ahead and wait and see. What are your thoughts out there on Henry Cavill coming back to DC? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, before we head to the break, and Ben Arnault from Smoking Hot Confessions and his conversation on everything DC, and also some great cooking tips as well, I wanted to go ahead and get your opinion on what you're hoping for later this week that's happening on the 4th when PlayStation is going to show off their wares for the PlayStation 5. I'm assuming this is going to be the conference that they were going to have, for the most part, that they were going to go ahead and show off had E3 gone off, without a hitch.
The only thing I'm hoping for is backwards compatibility. I would really like to see everything, and these are rumors, and there's always been these cock and bull stories about why we couldn't go backwards and why we're going forwards. And I think when I gave up with PlayStation 4, mine kind of down and died. I could have had it repaired, but I just felt myself going back and wanted to play PlayStation's 1, 2, and 3 games because I was just tired of you're so concerned about the cinematic cutscenes, and instead of taking those cutscenes and making it. Now everything seems to be cinematic. Even with that 2016, 17 version of God of War, where it's just a cinematic cutscene, then you're going right into the game, and that should be cool. But it's I don't want a CGI movie. I want to play an old school game. It would be great to bring back the entire library, even if God really had to repurchase it, which is really getting to be annoying. I miss playing PlayStation 1 games. I miss playing PlayStation 2 games. I thought that was the best system. 3 and 4 were trying to go more CGI. I don't know where else you could really go with this anymore. Bring back the original, or no, don't even remaster. Just find a way with your streaming service with Now. Just bring back the original library, just the way that Switch was trying to do with their Super Nintendo and Nintendo Online service. There really were some great PlayStation 2 games that were on the PlayStation Now network, which were Maximo Ghost of Glory, the original Final Fantasy X. I know there's a remastered version. They even try to bring in the European games, like the European version of Inspector Gadget and He Man, which weren't terrible. I just feel that that's what people really want to play more now than just trying to play. I mean, even the new Spider-Man game did nothing for me because I just felt like I was watching a CGI version of Spider-Man. But I'm a gambler, curious. But for now, I'm still happy with my PlayStation 2. That's what I have the most games on anyway.
Well, backwards compatibility is a key. Hopefully, they will go ahead and follow suit that the Xbox Series X is going to be doing when it comes out, and that is going to have full backwards compatibility, I believe, all the way down to original Xbox. The PlayStation 5 might be a little bit more difficult because you're talking about even older games and older systems in question, dating back to the 90s. I'm hoping that that's the case and they'll be able to, because PlayStation Now is a service, as Josh has gone on the record many times, and I agree with him that it's just overabundant in price, not really good to the value that you get out of it, and just something that is very antiquated and something that should be evolved into a free service for the PlayStation 5, or at least, like you said, built-in compatibility where you can pop in a PlayStation game or a PlayStation 2 game into PlayStation 5, and there you go. So I'm hopeful for that. I'm also hoping that they'll go ahead and elaborate more on the types of games that are going to be exclusive to the PlayStation 5 and why they should make a difference in you going ahead and coming to the conclusion that you should choose the PlayStation 5 over the Xbox Series X, because they're going to be at a price point at $500 or thereabouts that you're only going to be able to really afford just one at the present time.
Again, but then again with the Xbox Series X, so that's what it's called. If they could bring back Knights of the Old Republic, you have my money, or the future of my game even. But we'll see. I mean, and still Nintendo, who knows what they're going to do now? I mean, I have the Switch, but I heard they're supposed to be making changes with that. But I guess we'll find out. I mean, with the virus and everything, we're not getting E3, but I guess we'll see what happens next. No, it's this week actually. June 4th. It'll be this week, so we'll find out then.
We will find out. We will find out this week on June 4th what PlayStation has in store for us gamers out there for its PlayStation 5. What do you hope for when it comes to what they're going to debut? Let us know. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, coming up next is Ben Arnault from Smoking Hot Confessions. He's going to be talking some DC and also some great things going on with cooking, with an idea in regards to what he's doing as far as cooking in this time of pandemic, with a nice seafood boil and some beef and bacon stew. Sounds good. He's coming up. He's coming up to tell you all about that and more coming up after the break. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're here to close out the show. It's the Pop Culture Cosmos. It's Gerald coming right back at you here. Want to thank Ben Arnault from Smoking Hot Confessions for appearing on the show once again today. I'm back with Noah Ian Fein, and Noah, it's that time again. We're counting down another set of films in our top 100 Pop Culture Cosmos film movie countdown, and we're going to start off with 79, and I'm going to get you, sucker.
God, let's talk about one of the most underrated '80s classics.
Yes.
Love this movie. I can't quote it because I'm sure this is a family-friendly show.
Yes.
However, if you really want to see, and the way that the world is now with the riots, which is a shame, please, we're not racist. I feel bad, but I just want to say right now, nothing political, but these riots are not going to do anything and not going to honor the memory of what happened. Justice will be served. But if you really want to watch a very angry film about, taking down the man, you got to watch this. I feel that I was so tempted to watch this weekend, but I'm working, and I decided to go back and watch some Scooby Doo. But this is not only a great rainy day movie. This is while you're quarantined. You got to go back and watch. I'm gonna get you, sucker.
I'm going to get you, sucker. Indeed, it's going to be something that you need to check out. It's really funny. The Wayans brothers, obviously Damon Wayans and Keenan and the mastermind behind it all, Keenan Ivan Wayans. Just such a great film. I hope everybody gives it a chance. That's I'm going to get you, sucker, at number 79. Inception, a movie that came out. I thought it seemed like yesterday, but it's been almost 10 years now, my friend. Inception has come out, and it really, at that point in time, one of Christopher Nolan's best, I think. Yeah, that's at 78. It's just really something that the visuals of it at that point in time really seemed to amaze viewers, and I think that's why it's still gripping to us today, even though it's been repeated on a number of occasions. Doctor Strange is the most comparable
Yeah.
movie to it. So, your thoughts on it, Inception at number 78?
When I first heard about this movie and it was Nolan, I was like, shut up and take my money. It's not a bad film. Please don't get me wrong. I also like the fact how The Simpsons kind of did their take on it in 22 minutes or less. You really have to sit there with an open mind because if I understand this movie, and I only saw it once because I felt it was that good that and sadly nobody wanted to talk about it. But if I understood it, and I think that I did, it was that if you want to steal somebody's ideas and get away with it, you go inside their dreams. But it's kind of like the Matrix that if you die in the reality, you die in real life, which actually, okay, we're going to go through that again. But the way that when somebody's waking up, the world is going to come crumbling down because that's what pretty much happens when you wake up from a dream, I suppose. Or I thought it was better in the opening of Pee Wee's Big Adventure when Pee Wee was dreaming about winning the bike race and everybody just like runs off screen because he's waking up from his dream. Whatever floats your boat. But what made me do the thinking was where you spin the top, and if it falls down, that means that you're in the waking world, but if it still spins, you're forever in the dreaming world. And again, The Simpsons parodied that at the end of one of their episodes, and even South Park, within Sheepson, I believe it was called. And there was also controversy with this 8 or 10 year old movie critic, and Howard Stern was talking about him because the kid apparently didn't like the movie, and Howard Stern said, "Well, you're 10 years old." The kid did talk like a young Sheldon, but the bottom line is this is a movie that I think people need to go back to because if you really want to get the Matrix right, or get any of these, if it's a dream within a dream, this is really the most talked about movie, and I feel bad that Nolan didn't get the credit he deserved for this one. This is too high on the list. This is also another one that should be in. The more I think about it, this should be in the top 25. This is one I really would like to talk about again sometime.
That is Inception at number 78. Number 77 is probably one of the biggest surprises on this list. A movie that has been forgotten by many, and I guess it just realized, just for many out there, realizes how old they are because Ryan Reynolds starred in this movie 15 years ago. And that is Just Friends with Amy Smart and Ryan Reynolds. Movie didn't do so well, but it seems to have lingered in with with some fans of ours because it has been voted in at number 77. Just Friends.
Yeah, it may be in the top 90s. It's because of Ryan Reynolds that I remember it, and it's because of Chris Klein or Chris Pine was in it. It's one of the Chris's. and Amy Smart. Um, it brought back the 1980s romantic comedy, and I also love Nana Faris as this psychotic Britney Spears character during a time with Britney Spears and her controversy. I've seen this movie several times, love it. It's pretty much secured why Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool and is a Canadian treasure and is probably the most unappreciated comedian comedic talents of our generation. So we may not get a Deadpool 3, but this will tide you over until then.
That's number 77, Just Friends. Number 76 is also something that I'm going to tell you right now, my friend, is it should be much lower on the list. And that is Lord of the Rings: Two Towers, which, in my opinion, and you know I love the Lord of the Rings movies. Named two daughters after them, so I must love them. But I will tell you what, right now, Lord of the Rings: Two Towers, of the three films, which are all fantastic, this to me is the best film of the series. It does so much right. It does so much right that Empire Strikes Back did as well, as far as carrying and making better number one and three, while still being a great film itself. That's Lord of the Rings: Two Towers at number 77.
I saw this movie 5 times in the theaters, bought the One Ring until unfortunately it actually turned my finger green like Gollum. I read the books back in elementary school, high school. In elementary school, I don't know if you remember the Parker Brothers memory game. They had one from the Lord of the Rings, that the Rankin Bass version. I was a huge fan. I haven't watched it in a while, but I couldn't wait to get the extended version. Out of all three, I still think that Two Towers is the most unappreciated. It's a shame that Fellowship 2 and Return didn't win for Best Picture. And I guess the Academy is saying, well, you have all these three movies back to back to back. You know it's going to go to Peter Jackson for Return. But I think it would have been interesting if this every year would have gone to Best Picture for these movies. They're talked about more than Chicago, which which won the Oscar in 2002. I forget what won in 2001, and in 2003 we had Return of the King that won. I don't know where Fellowship and Two are going to stay on, come on this list, but yeah, this should be much, much, especially the CGI of Gollum, because we didn't know what Peter Jackson was going to make him. He teased us for a year and did not disappoint. I have to say it is definitely the great second act of third act play. And yes, even a critic, and not myself, but someone from New York once said that the battle for oh god, I know it's not. Give me a second. I know it's the fort. The God, my brain just locked up. You know what I'm talking about. Even Gandalf said it. The battle for Helm's Deep. Thank you. I am too bloody old. The battle for Helm's Deep in Lord of the Rings made Star Wars look like a arcade game when they were battling against the Death Star, which of course there were these, Death Star arcade games. But yeah, Helm's Deep was an awesome battle that didn't stop. I was definitely not disappointed. Even when I got the Lord of the Rings EA video game, I got to play as Gandalf fighting off orcs in Helm's Deep, and I'm telling you right now, it was awesome. So if you can get those games for PlayStation or Xbox or GameCube, they're worth it. This is probably the most unappreciated trilogy that I ever seen in years.
And that is number 77. That is Lord of the Rings: Two Towers. I'll tell you what, it is truly a remarkable film. And again, I cannot thank everyone for voting for that movie in the top 100. Should have been a little bit lower, but you know what? I'm so glad it's there nonetheless. And in my opinion, the best of the outstanding trilogy of the Lord of the Rings films. Coming up at number 76, a very funny movie and one that inspires comedians even to this day as far as slapstick comedy and breaking the fourth wall and that whole nine yards, and that is Naked Gun. Just, if you saw the original series on ABC that it was based off of, it's just truly remarkable fun. Yes, unfortunately, it does involve O.J. Simpson and for that, and that's something that's a very unfortunate part of it. But if put that aside, Leslie Nielsen is at his finest in the Naked Gun series, and of course, it was a failed series, the Police Squad, on ABC, that brought out this great movie that was a big hit at the time, and that's Naked Gun.
Well, again, the only good thing about it is that O.J. Simpson gets tortured literally throughout the movie, and also in the second and third one. And ironically, while the third one was out, that's when the whole O.J. But you know what? It's not about O.J. Yeah, he's in it, but he's also in another movie that I don't know if it's going to make this list, and if it doesn't, I'll talk about it. You know what? We didn't know about it. I'm not going to talk about OJ anymore. I'm just going to talk about this movie. And the fact is, Leslie Nielsen, interesting, was doing a lot of dramatic roles and then decided he wanted to do comedy. And I don't recall it being Airplane. I'm going to say it was actually Creepshow because if you pay attention to Creepshow, he is rather funny. I mean, he has a dry sense of humor in Creepshow more than I think he really did with Airplane. And I'm not taking anything away from Airplane, but you can kind of tell with Creepshow that that's where he was starting to become Frank Drebin. I've watched the series Police Squad a lot. I know Robert Roll wrote a couple of episodes. It's too bad we can't talk about Police Squad. I don't think you can get it through Amazon, but there weren't that many episodes. I think there may be 6 episodes or 8 episodes. It was canceled very quickly, sadly. But if you could try to hunt down the DVDs, they're worth your time. Just to let you know really quick, no, George Kennedy is not in the original Police Squad TV show. I forget who the actor was.
Not character actor, but yeah.
Yeah, character actor. But yeah, if you could definitely hunt down Police Squad and definitely Naked Gun Trilogy, it's. Oh, and let's not forget, possibly, God, Ricardo Montalban. I mean, nothing he can do it is terrible. And yeah, the plot is so stupid, but it just I don't care. I was having fun watching this
But
movie.
that's the idea.
Yeah, that's the idea. And you know what? Even with the second one, the third one, it got more idiotic and yet somehow social commentary. I mean, there was something about the third one if we ever talk about it, but I'll save it when we get to it. But yeah, this was a great. This should be lower on the list too, sadly, because I don't think they make comedies like this anymore. Because now it's all about pop culture references and toilet humor that I don't think they kind of get today.
And that's the Naked Gun. That is now at number 75 on the list. Let's do a quick countdown because I think I got my numbers mixed up, so I can do this on post. Number 79 is I'm Gonna Get You Sucker. Number 78 is Inception. Number 76 is Just Friends. Number 75 is Lord of the Rings: Two Towers. Number 74 is Naked Gun. Number 73 we come to right now, my friend, and that is Starship Troopers. That's Starship Troopers at number 73.
Would you like to know more?
Would I like
This
to know
is
more?
Oh God.
Yes.
You know, okay, what you don't want to know more about are those sequels. Trust me on that one, especially in the last two where they were just like CGI and they had nothing to do with anything. They got really bad. Um, of course, it's from the director of RoboCop. It shows everything from co-ed showers to Neil Patrick Harris, I guess, as a young Hitler. What? And that brainy bug. Yeah, this is possibly one of the most. A funny thing too is that when I went to see the release of Star Wars, they were showing this trailer for Starship Troopers, and people were going ballistic over it. And you know what? I thought it was just because they're just hyped about Star Wars. But boy, did they. You don't see that today, though. When people see trailers today, they're like, okay, whatever. But when they saw the trailer for Starship Troopers, man, oh man. Another one. The book, though, I wouldn't recommend so much. It's a little bit long in the tooth. But yeah, this is. Oh, and Rue McCallaghan. Blanche Dubois in a cameo. She doesn't have a southern accent, but that it's her. You gotta watch this movie. And again, maybe it's me, maybe I'm biased, but this is one of these movies that I feel should be a little bit lower on the list. Maybe in the top 30 to be fair. But yeah.
It's definitely a fun watch. It does have a lot of statements about it as you watch the film, as far as the type of things it wants to express. But it is a very campy sci-fi film that I think a lot of people have grown to love. It was an okay film. It did okay when it came out in theaters. Didn't do great, but it's taken on a new life in video, as so many other films have. It's achieved a cult status, and I think as well, and you're going to be disappointed again in me when saying this, it's going to probably necessitate a reboot at some point in time. That's two and two, my friend. I'm telling you, Darkman and Starship Troopers.
No.
It's inevitable. I'm not nothing I'm hearing. I'm just saying it's inevitable. Inevitable. Sorry, man.
We'll watch us to reboot the MCU.
Okay, so that's 74. Starship Troopers. Yeah, that's Starship Troopers at 74. 73. No, that's 73. 71, 72, 73, 71. No, that's 74. Yes. That's Starship Troopers at number 74. Number 73 is The Departed, a movie that's well thought of, had an A list, as far as just a top shelf actors and actresses that were very much a part of that movie. Did it all come together? For many people, it did in Martin Scorsese's The Departed at number 73.
I wanted to like this movie. I really, 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 from Martin Scorsese alone. I understood that he and Robert De Niro had a falling out. You had Leonardo DiCaprio.
Well, they didn't fall out too much, man, because they're going to be making a $200 million film together with Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro. So,
I mean, De Niro and Scorsese are back, but I'm just saying for decades ago they did have a falling out, and that's why Leonardo came in and everything. No, I mean they patched things up because that's what guys do. Don't get me wrong, but during this Scorsese Leo team up for a while, you had Gangs of New York, and you had The Aviator, and you had The Departed. Out of those three, what was it? Shutter Island? Yeah, that was it. It was Shutter Island. So I'm sorry, 4 that I know of. But out of all of those I just discussed, because I'm a New Yorker, you know what I'm going to say about Gangs of New York, and I've watched that movie more times than I can count, and I've watched the documentaries, and I know what really happened with, there was a Bill the Butcher, and, I know all that. But that was a film that should have really put Scorsese back on the map. Departed, it wasn't one of the worst, but I felt like it was a 1970s movie that was sitting in the vault and just came out. I just didn't care. It was too long, too anticlimactic. It didn't work for me as much as I was hoping for. I know people like it. I'm glad that he finally got his due, but I watched it once and that was just enough for me. Should it be this high on the list? You know what? If you're a Scorsese fan, to each his own. But for me, I think we know that in the past and in the future, Scorsese's done better.
Well, I don't think Scorsese has done much better, in my opinion, because The Departed to me was really good. So that's number 73. That's The Departed. Number 72 is John Carpenter's suspense horror movie that has actually grown almost, has been very popular over the years and well thought of as one of John Carpenter's best. At number 72, it's The Thing.
Oh, John Carpenter's The Thing. Okay, because I know there was another version.
This is John Carpenter's.
Yeah, not that prequel with, Ramona from Scott Pilgrim versus the World. John Carpenter's The Thing did not do well at the box office back then. I know there was a video game that wasn't terrible. It just, kind of dragged a little. I know it's based on the story Who Goes There, and I've watched the original thing from the world. Again, it's actually a quotable movie. I love the teaser trailer, but again, can't talk about it family podcast because there's one of my favorite quotes. But here's the thing. John Carpenter was at his best when he would just stay away from the Halloween films. And I feel that every director knows who they want to work with for a long time. John Carpenter was very good working with Kurt Russell, and it shows. And it showed also in Big Trouble in Little China. But I feel that the movie gets more credibility now because, again, I think people were upset with the pacing, but it wasn't so much about the pacing, it was about that ending. And it really was about who's real and who's an alien that's a shapeshifter. Works. It had a great cast. It had great chemistry. Wilford Brimley was at his best. Kurt Russell was at his best. Uh, Again, when you don't really have to work. I mean, there were some great special effects shots, definitely with the defibrillator. But yeah, they don't make movies like this anymore with the practical effects, and that's a shame. So definitely check this one out. I do know that in 1998 they kind of made like this teenage high school MTV version called The Faculty. Not terrible. Don't know if it's going to be on this list, but it was a nice little homage. So yeah, check this one out and stay away from that prequel, whatever that thing was about how the dog got to the base in Alaska. That's all. The end. Watch the original thing.
That's number 72, and that's The Thing from John Carpenter. Number 71 is an exquisite foreign film. I just have seen it on multiple occasions. I cannot recommend it much higher than one of my films. It cannot recommend it much higher. It's truly a great film, very inspirational, and just some very well thought out directing. And as far as the whole thing, if you're if you're into international films, then you should definitely check out number 71, Y tu mama también.
And your mother too. Yeah, which is the English translation, I believe. I do remember this film. Only saw it one time. Um, don't have it to memory, sadly, but check this one out.
Yes.
Whether or not it's high or low on the list, it's a matter of opinion because this was an interesting time. I just wanted to say really quick that international films were making a bigger deal in the late 90s, early 2000s more than they were 30, 40 years ago because unfortunately people did not want to read subtitles, but somehow, somewhere, they made them more palatable. So, yeah, thankfully they started to come out of the woodwork and they've made a bigger deal. And I wish the Academy would just stay away from foreign film category, just take the foreign films and put them in the best picture like they did with Parasite. This is definitely a film that I should rewatch, but yeah, out of all the foreign films that were starting to become a bigger deal in Hollywood now, this is definitely one you want to check out.
That is number 71, and that's Y tu mama también. Excellent film, and I highly recommend it as well. Number 70 is something that we talked a little bit about the director of this film, and that was in last week's episode of the PC Multiverse when we were talking about our previous 10, 80 to 89, and that is Sam Raimi. This is something that I know is up your alley. I know this is up your alley with Ash coming back out for number 70, and that is Army of Darkness.
Wow, so we've talked about the Wayans brothers, we've talked about Nolan, we've talked about Ryan Reynolds.
This has been a stacked group
Peter
here.
Jackson, Naked Gun, uh, uh, Scorsese, John Carpenter, great foreign film, and now we're ending it with Sam Raimi's Army of Darkness. You know, I remember watching Evil Dead 2 and wondering if we were ever going to get a sequel, and when we did, I almost gave up hope, and when I saw it, man, it didn't disappoint. And it was Bruce Campbell's year because not only did Army of Darkness come out, I found out that he was going to start working on Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., and he was going. Actually, it was his decade because Army of Darkness, County Jr., his cameo in Congo, which I know kind of sucked. I wish he was the star, but it is what it is. He was on a roll, and he still is, and it's. I think what's even better is that over the years there was this other ending that if you haven't seen it, which is bizarre, There was being passed around the bootleg edition, which had the original ending with audio commentary, but now I got the definitive edition. Because I know there was the primitive Screwhead edition and then the bootleg edition, but now with this definitive, you get the primitive Screwhead edition, you get the bootleg edition, you get the audio commentary from the bootleg edition, you get a brand new audio commentary, you get a new documentary, you get the works, and it's on Blu-ray. Came out a couple years ago. I think it's through Shout Factory or Scream Factory, I should say. The same people who gave us that special edition of Evil Dead 2 and Evil Dead 1 with a awesome 2-hour documentary and audio commentary galore because they had it from the standard and they put a brand new one for the Blu-ray. So you gotta watch Army of Darkness. It's not as good as Evil Dead 2, and it's sadly with Ash versus the Evil Dead, it's not discussed because um, Universal owns the rights to Army of Darkness, and Sam Raimi did not. He just was able to write and direct it, and Bruce Campbell was able to star it. That's all. But there was the Evil Dead video games where I think the one for the Dreamcast, you could go back to medieval times. And there was talk somehow that they were going to have Ash go back to medieval times in a season 3 or 4 of Ash versus Army of Darkness, which never happened. So, again, because of rights issues, I believe. But the bottom line is this. It, in the 70s, I would this is controversial for me. It's not as good as Evil Dead 2. I don't know where Evil Dead 2 is going to be on this list, but this is way, way too high. This has got to be lower for reasons because of Bruce Campbell alone. And it's also, Monty Python and the Holy Grail for the 90s. I'll just say it. And it did feel like Monty Python and the Holy Grail for the 90s. But, yeah, and definitely get your hands on that Blu-ray edition if you really want to hear some great stories and some great documentaries. But yeah, that's it. Just disappointed it's too high on the list, man.
That's number 70. That's Army of Darkness. Obviously one of Bruce Campbell's finest, and also Sam Raimi's as well. So that's our list right now of number 70 to 79. Remember, each week on one of the episodes, either the Pop Culture Cosmos or the PCC Multiverse, we will be debuting a new set in our list of the top 100 films from Pop Culture Cosmos. That was voted on by you, the listeners and followers of the Pop Culture Cosmos. So if you want to hear more, or if you want to read more, or if you want to know more about our top 100 films, you can check out previous episodes or go ahead and check out coming up very soon on popculturecosmos.com. I'll have written stuff. I'll have the written list coming up here in a little bit at popculturecosmos.com. So check it out. Hopefully you will and get a chance to check out what everybody's thoughts on our top 100 films for Pop Culture Cosmos. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. I cannot thank you enough for being a part of it right here on the Pop Culture Cosmos. Looking forward to some more great things as Josh returns to us at the PCC Multiverse, but I cannot thank you enough for stopping by once again. Any last thoughts on the way out?
Yes, I do have some thoughts. Because, again, I don't know every movie that's going to be on numbers 1 to 60, but please, if there is a movie god out there, I hope and pray that at least Evil Dead 2 is in the top 20s. And I kind of hope, I know it's not your favorite. I don't think E.T. has been discussed. It'd be curious, but I really hope that number 1 is what I think it is. And not just for pop culture purposes. I have reason what my number 1 would be. I don't know if we could ever talk about it, but it would be something interesting that I feel I'm glad it did get a Criterion. It is in the Criterion library, and it's well deserved. And so is his director, but again, another time. But again, Gerald, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much, my friend, indeed. So for No Ian Fein, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great